is the difference between humor and odor. One of them is a shift of wit. This was one of my father's favorite jokes, and it is mine. If he gave me nothing else, he gave me this great joke. My life is full. But I'm fortunate he gave me a lot more than that. At times, my father could shift his wit so much as to seem aberrant. But if you thought about what he was saying, you would see that he had a keen insight into the situation. And he often had thoughtful ideas about it. He was my yardstick, against which I would measure many accomplishments in my life. When I was younger, it was a bit of a competition. Could I run faster, jump higher, swim more laps than he could when he was my age? He was almost exactly 30 years older than I was. To this day, I still compare my life to his. This competition kind of stopped when I was about 10 years old. That entire year, I lived in fear that my father would die, because you see, when he was 10, his father died. So that whole year, I just assumed it was my destiny. The same thing would happen for me. Thankfully, I won that competition. And when I turned 11, I kind of stopped keeping score. My father was the kind of guy that worked behind the scenes. My mother was out in front directing the show, organizing all the details, as Judy said. It seemed like she made all the decisions, that my father had no role in it. But he had a way of influencing her and influencing us. He would just suggest things at key moments, and they just kind of made sense. And so we did that. My father was the person who convinced me to pursue engineering in college. He said, just try the ROTC program at Villanova. Just think about applying to the Hershey Medical School. His way of influencing us was subtle. Perhaps he shifted his wit to influence us. It's because of my father that I stay up late at night picking out recyclables from our trash. Put black pepper, a lot of black pepper, in my tomato juice. Cut out the yolk of a sunny-side-up egg and eat it whole on toast. Write my signature almost exactly the same way he did. Really, truly love canned sardines, which we used to have before Sunday dinner. Try very hard to judge people on the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Appreciate the beauty of very small things, like sitting on the porch at Lake Mineola on a quiet Saturday morning. Try and see something good in difficult situations. In the last few years of her life as the monster of Alzheimer's tormented my mother, Dad weathered the storms of her confusion and anger with patience and stoicism. He was a pillar of support, a constant presence. I still have the love of my life, he would say. A story that I think about that still makes me laugh when I think about it comes from when I was about 12 or 13 years of age. There was all of the Boy Scout troops in the Hershey area were gathering for a kite flying contest. Well, my father loved everything about Boy Scouts, so we had to enter this contest. We spent weeks building this kite. My mother even got involved. She sewed reinforced seams on the edges of the kite. It was beautiful, blue and yellow with a long flowing tail. On the day of the contest, it was very windy. The kind of wind that would invert a cheap umbrella like that. I expressed my concern to my father. Maybe it's too windy, maybe we shouldn't do this. But in his easygoing way, he just smiled and said, "It's not so bad. Your mother reinforced the seams." So when the contest began, we stood on the edge of the field. We hardly had to work to get the kite in the air. I just let it go and the wind took it. I thought for sure we were going to have one of the highest flying kites. We put 2 spools of string together to ensure this. But it was really windy. And I struggled to stay in control. The kite just flew zipping left, darting right, flying in crazy circles, but mostly just parallel to the ground, not really up. There were a few times I thought we were going to hit people in the head with this crazy kite. I was getting really stressed out. We put so much work into this kite, and it just wasn't going up. And I was not in control. Dad kept giving me tips on how to hold the string, how to pull on the handle. "It's not that bad," he would say. "Other kids' kites are crashing. You're still flying." I was really annoyed. He was minimizing the situation. There were a lot of kites that were way higher than mine. It was crazy. And the situation was beginning to smell bad. But soon enough, the contest was over. They ended it early because it was too windy. And so, as I was reeling in my kite, I looked over on the back of the field and I saw my father laughing with one of the contest officials. I thought for sure that they were making fun of me and my crazy kite. And so then my father walks over to me, still laughing, and he says, "Well, you didn't win any awards for the highest flying kite." Was he mocking me? "But you did win the award for the most acrobatic one." What? Who knew that was even a category for awards? So with this knowledge of accomplishment, I was elated. That was right. It wasn't that bad. And I was a kite acrobat. I work in healthcare. At times, both literally and figuratively, I catch a whiff of something that doesn't smell so good. Often, these are stressful situations, and I am required to remain calm and be stoic. It's challenging. But in these times, I often think of my father, and I try to focus on something positive and think, it's not that bad. And I shift my weight.